Putin and Trump, two controversial leaders, a new meeting. According to Kremlin officials, this meeting will take place in a few days. The venue has already been decided. The White House has also confirmed this news. But one detail about this meeting stands out. Zelensky will not be attending. This is not a simple diplomatic dialogue. This is a meeting that could reshape the geopolitical landscape, taking place against the backdrop of the war in Ukraine. Because both leaders' agendas are more about perceptions than facts. For Putin, this meeting is an opportunity to create an alternative channel of negotiation with the West. In the current environment of diplomatic isolation regarding Ukraine, he aims to establish a new strategic link through Trump. For Trump, this is an opportunity to showcase his foreign policy experience ahead of the upcoming elections. But why is Zelensky not participating in this meeting? Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin have met several times before. These meetings were noteworthy not only in terms of the relationship between the two leaders, but also in terms of the overall course of U.S.-Russia relations. The most controversial meeting took place in 2018 in Helsinki, Finland. During the press conference following the meeting, Trump openly questioned the U.S. intelligence community's claims regarding Russian interference, sparking harsh criticism both domestically and internationally. This marked the first time Trump's soft stance toward Russia was so openly revealed. The U.S. media described the meeting as a victory for Putin and a diplomatic fiasco for Trump. In 2019, Trump and Putin met again in Osaka, Japan, as part of the G20 summit. This time, the meeting was shorter and more formal. Trump's remark, "Don't interfere in the elections," which he said with a smile during the press conference, was again criticized because it showed that he did not take the issue seriously. During his presidency, Trump had numerous telephone conversations with Putin. The details of most of these conversations were not disclosed to the public. However, it is known that a special agreement language had developed between the two leaders outside of traditional diplomatic channels. So why is Zelensky not at the table this time? Zelensky's absence from this planned meeting between Putin and Trump is not just a matter of protocol. It is a symbolic and strategic decision. First of all, it should be noted that the presence of the Ukrainian side in any high-level meeting related to the Russia-Ukraine war is considered a requirement of international law and diplomatic ethics. However, this rule is being violated in this meeting. There are several reasons for this. First, Putin's goal is to establish a negotiation table without Ukraine. Putin has long been trying to involve the West, and especially the U.S., in peace talks without Ukraine. The goal is simple: to weaken Ukraine's role as an independent actor and make decisions about its future without its participation. This approach is consistent with the Kremlin's rhetoric that Ukraine is a tool of the West and also sends a message to the domestic audience that Russia is regaining its power. Another reason is Trump's different view of Ukraine. During his presidency, Donald Trump repeatedly questioned the rationale behind aid to Ukraine. He has adopted an approach that seeks to minimize the U.S.'s role in this war. This leads Putin to view Trump as an ideal partner for negotiations. Zelensky's exclusion from the table may indicate that Trump has at least passively approved this scenario. If this meeting takes place without Ukraine's participation, it could create distrust in international diplomatic circles toward peace initiatives. This is because it serves to legitimize Russia's stance, which has not been accepted until now. So what has Trump's relationship with Russia been like so far? Donald Trump entered the 2024 presidential election with the image of a leader who puts American interests first and stays away from foreign conflicts. His approach to relations with Russia is also shaped by this framework. Trump's basic strategy is simple: to minimize U.S. responsibility in the Ukraine war and offer a quick peace perspective by conducting direct negotiations with Putin. Trump has repeatedly stated that if he is re-elected, he can end the Russia-Ukraine war within 24 hours. Although this statement is far from political reality, it is a message designed to appeal to his anti-war voter base. The key point here is this: Trump emphasizes that he wants to resolve the situation in Ukraine through a political agreement rather than military means, a position closer to Putin's stance. In addition, Trump has repeatedly criticized NATO in his 2024 campaign, even presenting the possibility of the U.S. leaving NATO as a plausible scenario in some of his speeches. This rhetoric directly aligns with Putin's geopolitical objectives. For Russia, NATO's weakening and the U.S. withdrawal from Europe are considered strategic gains. Trump's statements, however, are not directed against the Kremlin, but indirectly work in its favor. Meanwhile, the war between Russia and Ukraine continues. In the summer of 2025, the course of the Russia-Ukraine war entered a new phase in tactical, technological, and psychological terms. In particular, the battles in Chasiv Yar in the Donetsk region are the center of attention, both militarily and symbolically. The city of Chasiv Yar is as important as Avdiivka and Bakhmut in terms of control over strategic heights in the Donetsk region. Russian forces have been conducting systematic attacks in this direction since the end of 2024. By mid-2025, the industrial areas and heights surrounding the city are now under Russian control. The Ukrainian command, on the other hand, is trying to protect Chasiv Yar as one of its last lines of defense. Both sides are using heavy armored vehicles and artillery intensively in this area. These clashes are a serious test of Ukraine's current resource capacity and the effectiveness of military support from the West. Across the Donetsk region, Russia's military tactics have changed. Russian forces, which advanced mainly through positional warfare and artillery superiority in 2023 and 2024, have now shifted to a new strategy involving small mobile units and drone-supported attacks. The Ukrainian side, meanwhile, has shifted its defensive positions to urban and forested areas. However, while this has reduced human and equipment losses, it has not been able to stop Russia's overall advance. Ukraine's drone and missile attacks on the Kursk region in June to July 2025 showed that the war is no longer confined to Ukrainian territory, but is also being fought within Russia. These attacks on oil depots, airports, and military depots around Kursk aim to disrupt the Russian army's supply chain and symbolically convey the message, "We will strike you on your own territory." In response, Russia has intensified its airstrikes on Ukraine's energy infrastructure and western regions. In conclusion, in the summer of 2025, the situation on the front lines is neither entirely in Ukraine's favor, nor does it reflect Russia's clear superiority. However, Russia is making steady progress in terms of human resources, air superiority, and technical capabilities. Why is the Kremlin pursuing this disinformation policy? The Kremlin's information strategy has long been based on winning over public opinion, where it has failed to achieve success on the battlefield. The goal is not limited to convincing the domestic public of certain narratives. This strategy also aims to divert the international community's attention away from the real situation and overshadow the actual course of the conflict. Disinformation messages spread through the Kremlin's official and semi-official media channels, social media networks, and troll factories are conveyed to the public in the form of both deliberately distorted news and manipulative analyses. These campaigns often center on false victory announcements. For example, claims about advances in Chasiv Yar and the Donetsk region are presented with great fanfare by the Kremlin's media machine, but they have no significant impact on the actual war situation. Such claims do not replace the truth. Rather, they are illusions created to reinforce political legitimacy internally and project an image of strength externally. Ultimately, Moscow seeks to strengthen the image of an invincible side, both among its own citizens and the international community. Another important objective of the disinformation strategy is to strengthen positions in the negotiation process. Russia tries to strengthen its hand at the negotiating table by concealing the real difficulties it faces on the battlefield and overshadowing its losses and failed operations. This is carried out in a planned manner to make the other side appear weak, break its will, and send a message to international partners that it is in a superior position. What will happen if the meeting takes place? The possibility of a Putin-Trump meeting has now become a serious topic of discussion in the international political arena. After such a meeting, the situation could develop in various scenarios. First, for Russia, this meeting could be an important opportunity to gain diplomatic superiority. Putin is trying to establish alternative strategic relations with the West in order to hide the real losses incurred in the war and find new sources of support under sanctions. On the other hand, for Trump, this meeting is an important step in showing his image as a strong leader in foreign policy ahead of the election campaign. He wants to present himself as an influential player on the world stage, and this meeting could provide him with that opportunity. However, Zelensky's absence from the meeting means that Ukraine's future will be discussed without his participation, which indicates that Ukraine will not be recognized as a key party in the resolution of the conflict. This increases the risks in the future stages of the war and further deepens political tensions. At the same time, the Kremlin's disinformation policy is expected to become even more active after the meeting. The Russian side will try to strengthen its position through false information and distortions, which will further intensify the information war. Ultimately, this meeting is not a simple diplomatic dialogue. It could influence the changing global geopolitical balance and determine the future direction of the conflict. However, given the current situation and previous experiences, the outcome remains uncertain and volatile. What do you think about this? Don't forget to leave your comments. And finally, don't forget to follow our channel to stay updated on such news.